Hello, everybody. So good to go. Good to see you. I know that's a little bit of tricky to, for listening to the conversations at 4 o'clock in the evening. Everybody's a little bit of exhausted. I was asked to tell the story about Lithuania and about open banking, why it's so popular and why it became popular and how. So basically, mostly because, Lithuania is a little bit of a crazy country about digitalization, but also we had some preconditions which may exist or not in Balkan states. So first of all, I would say that Bulgaria as a country is ready for open banking per se, because most of the most clever guys actually are saying that open banking is something which may become very popular in Bulgaria very soon. As we are well aware, Bulgaria is coming to the Eurozone very quickly from the beginning of next year, which means the habits of the payments will change, and that will be a change for the customers too. Maybe move out of the cash, move out of the card, and become more addicted to new ways of payment. So that's what I say. I don't say that will happen because it may be nuances why it's popular and why it's not. So is it working? Yeah. So if you'll take a look and try to decompose what open banking or payment initiation service is actually a very simple method for the customers to pay for their goods and services. So they select a bank, they click to pay, they select an account and pay for that. That's it. That's open banking. So for some reason, that's a simple process is still not popular in Bulgaria. Next thing is that statistically wise, at least in Baltic states, this is a #1 payment method. Compared to Bulgaria, I would say the statistics would be other way around. Where you don't have a lot of open banking. So I'll try to very quickly, not taking much of your time, to go through the reasons behind why is it so. So first of all, Paysera as a company is a sponsor of this event as well. You all had badges and tickets through Paysera tickets. And in general, we were very lucky to be one of the first MEIs even try to adopt open banking or give a little bit of fresh overview what the payment to open banking is compared to traditional banks. So that's Paysera in Lithuania. In other countries can be a little bit slightly different. Also, there is a statistical research done that as bigger income for the customer is, as more likely they will choose digital payments compared to traditional cash or credit card ones. So this does apply actually in the regions in the same country, which means that digital is more popular between the either younger generations, either highly income, either just know that digital is a little bit of fancy thing, while others still prefer cash. So that may be one of the answers. Another thing is that there is a resistance always. For example, cards, Mastercard, who's a sponsor here, is a bit of tricky to see actually why Visa and Mastercard exchanging being sponsors in different events. So, I guess next year will be Visa. But in general, there's a huge resistance from the card network itself. They are giving a really good revenues to the banks. And also, it's a big network. And banks don't want to do that. And, that payment falls exactly to the e-commerce, not to the customer. So typical business pays from 2 to 3, somebody said it's 7% of a transaction, not included fixed fees. So it's a big amount of money. Also, there has to be a precondition, for example, like government institutions would like to have cheaper payments because say payments may be small. For example, tickets in buses may cost, 15 leva, which means that the credit card transaction sometimes may be bigger than the price of a ticket itself. So there has to be a precondition for that. Also, regulator has to be interested to change that. So these 3 things may not happen at the same time, but if we do have a combination of these type of preconditions, it's highly likely open banking will start this movement. So that's what happened in Lithuania. So first of all, the open banking is a standard, but if you roll back 20, 15 years ago, actually there was no API. There was no banking as per se itself at all. fintechs, when we invented it, they used screen scraping, which means basically emulating what user would do in a bank to make transfers, clicking the buttons with a robot. So that was partially illegal, and banks complained to regulators saying that, can you please forbid that? And the regulator faced the fact that they have a choice. Either they are going to kill the fintechs, which are doing somehow a legal thing, or actually use a situation for the advantage and push forward the alternative view for the payments themselves. So that's exactly what happened. So the key barriers for any innovation to happen is a circle of stakeholders not working together. First of all, there has to be a leadership who is doing that. Then it has to be less resistance from the market players, which is banks in our case. There has to be like a demand from the businesses to have cheaper transactions. And of course, there has to be unified implementation. So any technology, any standard follows these practices. They have to be in consistency, then it will happen. So, I like cards. They are going away from plastics. They are saying now Mastercard is digitalizing everything. I'm not against them. But if you'll take a look at open banking itself, actually, it's a competitor. The original idea is take away cards and make payments faster, cheaper, more innovative, secure in that way. So that's the idea of open banking. Now, can it be done? Well, that's been done in Lithuania. First of all, the content I'm presenting in this presentation, I didn't invent it. That's not mine. Actually, that's a combination of interviews done with people which are working right now in Central Bank of Lithuania in a management board. So these are their thoughts, what happened and why. So first of all, they have invented so-called Centralink. It's an intermediate system which allows different fintechs to open banking doors. Because the SEPA, SWIFT, and other regulations are quite significant in terms of financial requirements. So Centralink simplifies that. And also, it actually encouraged tax authorities like Revenue Service to implement open banking as a payment solution, because they can do that. Bank of Lithuania said, how about you give that as a payment method to all the citizens of Lithuania? The third thing, actually, that they did reshape the opinion of the open banking as a cool alternative method of payment. So they did a lot of talking. And also, they even invented the standardized approach for the utility payment. So the Bank of Lithuania was a leader in this particular case, which has changed the opinion of other three participants in the network. And these are three guys which I took interview from. I said, that's what happens. That's a quote from them, that the banks had a really big resistance on that. And that's happening in Bulgaria as well. So if you'll take a look at the open banking as a standard in every bank, you'll see that they implemented that just theoretically. It works for them on their computers, not for any fintech if you have one. But in general, from the history, we can see that they resist at the beginning, and then they start actually collaborate because the players which are encouraging open banking start stealing clients from them. So that's exactly what happens. So, where's the slide? Yes. So this is a very hypothetical figures, because if you take open banking as an alternative payment for the cards, you're talking just taking a fraction of card payments and making banks to earn less, because the percentage per payment on payment chain services is much smaller. But if you're taking that as a change of the habit, let's say people, instead of using cash and cards, switch to open banking, then you're talking much bigger numbers, and that's what happened in Lithuania. So banks actually increased their revenue 6 times, and Paysera itself alone actually does bigger figures, much bigger figures than a small bank right now. So it's possible, but has to be a little bit of different mathematical. Because right now, the market player says, they're just getting less money. I don't want it. So that's a habit change. Then the mathematical fundamentals will change. So An example, I know that in Bulgaria and in Baltic states and in Balkan states, everywhere, at certain point, there's a very popular method of I want to buy something, I order it, I don't pay for it, and return it. So, goods first, payment later, or buy now, pay later. It's a typical approach saying that open banking doesn't allow that, which is completely not true, because in general, all participants in the flow, they do get the payment. However, if you take a look at the major networks which are encouraging these type of payments, they do have buy now, pay later solutions based on open banking. So the habits will stay. This is an example where the biggest networks in Lithuania, we're talking about a billion companies, actually banks like Swedbank, like SEB, are the biggest open banking providers for them. The ones which were the biggest resistance, and Paysera also has one of the networks. So that's possible. That's possible, and even the ones which are against it. And also, when I was asking Bank of Lithuania, like evangelists, what would you change? What was the biggest mistake when you're implementing open banking? What would you change today? So first of all, we have to understand that from the European Union governance, open banking is not free. Actually, they don't put any charge at all. The cost of the open banking initiation service is actually decided by country. So Lithuania and many European countries went through the route that the payment initiation doesn't cost the customer anything. It's free. Now, what Bulgaria can do, they can actually say that will be 3 cents per transaction. This will bring up the revenue, the missing revenue for the banks, for the intermediate players, to everybody. That's a route to go. This is an official way, this is an official program for that. That can be an option. The way to do that, obviously, is not that interesting, but at the end, it's profitable. It's profitable for everybody if all players will decide to go that route. Okay? So, sorry, it's a little bit of slow. So, Bulgaria as a country may not be suitable for that type of journey because it's kind of unique. Every country is unique. And what played well in Lithuania may not play in Bulgaria or any other Balkan countries. And you have to pick up the path which is suitable for you. So coming back to the initial thought, there are 4 players which are deciding is the technology good to go or not. So first of all is the people themselves. Are they going to adopt it? Are they going to like it? Are they not? Then the second all is actually some kind of innovative companies which, like Paysera, is using open banking. So we are pioneers. Or somebody said unicorns, not exactly unicorns, but like close to it, maybe. Also, there are businesses which would like to make their transactions cheaper because, to be honest, 2 or 3% is a lot. And of course, there is the regulator. So 4 players would have to get the courage to work together. Now, in reality, that never happens. However, these are also a stakeholder. So from the simple project management theory, if half of the audience wants something, from the legal perspective, there is a permission to do that. So we have to get 50% plus 1. So, take fintechs and the regulator, and highly likely you'll get the movement going. Make events for society, encourage the businesses. Again, this will get the traction, and then others will follow. That's a really common approach, but that works. So this is something we should everybody consider. And of course, the other combination, and this is actually a suggestion from the regulator in Baltic states, and also from Fintech Hub. Fintech Hub is the biggest fintech association in Lithuania. One of the famous ones said, there's no reason to think that the businesses or fintechs have to drive that forward. It can be an association. It can be a movement. It can be an event. It can be anybody who will take the courage and be a pioneer in the field. Like I said, ideally 2 stakeholders out of 4, and that will happen. So, where do I point this? In there. Okay. So one of the one of the ways to do that is actually to use a unified API standard. So at some point, open banking has decided in Germany that the Berlin standard is the one to be used for the banks to be consistent. Now, PSD3 is coming later next year, and highly likely the standard will also be invented. If the banks will agree to use that standard, that will be much more helpful for the open banking to be possible. So that's the key criteria. I think I have a mandate from the Bank of Lithuania to invite anybody who's interested, especially Bank of Bulgaria, for the discussion and for the collaboration, and to talk about open banking and share the thoughts and maybe exchange experience. An example would be this event. Maybe next year it will be a double B. It will be Balkan Baltics, fintech days. Which is possible because Baltic Fintech Days happened a month ago, which is a combination of Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia working together on a specific journey. So that's my suggestion. Otherwise, thank you very much. If anybody wants a little bit of deeper thought about open banking or questions, you can find me in Paysera stand or after the speech right now. Or maybe you can ask questions right now. So up to you. That's it.